Good evening, good evening, TCR family, AME family, and those of you who are joining us from all over. We're grateful to be sharing this time and space with you. And since we aren't able to see you all physically, just drop us a note in the comment sections, either on YouTube or on Facebook Live. Drop us a note in the comment section or the chat boxes to let us know where you're joining us from. We want to hear from you. We want to know. Shout out your location. We'll be looking out for your responses. And in the meantime, welcome to this session of TCR Dialogues. Tonight, we're talking reparations and the recent land back agreement made between the Bethel AME Church in Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Penguins. We have joining with us tonight Reverend Dr. Dale B. Snyder Sr., pastor of Bethel, Pittsburgh. Reverend Dr. Dale B. Snyder Sr. has almost 3 decades of pastoral experience and has pastored Bethel since November of 2019. He is a veteran of the U.S. Army and graduated from David Myers University with a BS in corporate management and a BS in business administration. He has also received a degree in Black Church Studies from Ashland Theological Seminary and a Master of Divinity and DMin from Payne Theological Seminary. In 2012, Reverend Snyder received the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award presented by the Columbus Education Association for his work to defeat Issue 5, the collective bargaining bill in the state of Ohio. Welcome, Reverend Dr. Dale B. Snyder. Please greet the people for us.
Well, hello, everyone. And thank you, Jasmine, for those kind words of introduction and presentation. I'm excited to be here tonight.
All right. Well, I'm excited that you're here. Thank you for joining us. Since the 2016 election cycle, it seems that reparations has been a hot button issue, right? In the
Yeah.
public and political sphere. But for anybody who understands our history as a nation or even as descendants of the African diaspora, we know that reparations have been part of our collective struggle since the Emancipation Proclamation, right? Bishops in the
Exactly.
AME Church in particular have participated in struggles for reparations, yet still we find that it's a hard topic for so many of us to take seriously.
Yeah, it is a very difficult topic, but it's one that's achievable when you present your argument to the right audience and
Right.
you have all of your facts and you express your facts in a way that is acceptable to those who are listening.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the facts, right? So for some, the concept of reparations is merely a far-fetched figment of our imaginations. So just help give us the moral and legal context, the moral and legal framework for the practical and tangible rights of Black people to reparations.
So, on many different levels, reparations is owed to us for past historical wrongs that have been done to our community through slavery, through Reconstruction. And we don't have to go all the way back to slavery, Reconstruction to talk about reparations. I want you to think about where your retirement funds are going to right now. We're doing a development and we're seeking development funds. But I'm an older person. I got money in retirement, even though the AME Church, we got some difficulties. But think about all the Black people who have billions of dollars in pension funds, and those pension funds do not invest in their own community. That's one part of reparations. That's going to be my next level of fighting, that we can be able to direct our dollars, our millions of dollars through all the Black people in America to invest in our own community. Right now, they control our investments. We also are currently subject to taxation without representation. No matter which city or county you live in, if you pay 5% of the taxes, you deserve 5% of return on your investments in jobs, opportunities, construction, grants, economic development. So our argument going forward is on many different levels. Of course, we are owed reparation for the suffrage of slavery. I also argue from a book that I think everyone should buy that's a Christian. It is called Reparations, a Christian Call for Repentance and Repair. When I first started this journey, I was looking for a Christian construct to try to figure out how I can argue my point to white Christians, because I knew I had to build allies other than those who are oppressed. And I was thinking about the year Jubilee, the Jewish law that after 50 years, whoever owns the land, it goes back to the original landowner. And as I was searching through the internet, trying to find a platform, I found this wonderful book. I contacted the author, and we started looking through this book. I had already started my Thursday meetings. My daughter and Pastor Carmichael and a few others, Sue, got together, my wife, and said, let's put together some table talks. Let's present reparations in a way that the Christian church can understand what they have done to Black folks and how they owe us a debt of reparations. And so we use two Christian constructs. The first one is the wicked tax collector. Zacchaeus climbed up in the tree. Everybody was mad at him. Nobody liked tax collectors. We just got out of the tax season. Many of us got extensions, but nobody likes paying tax. So he was someone who was hated, despised. And they were really mad at Jesus because Jesus went to this wicked man's house. But salvation came to him. And as a result of his salvation, he said, if I've stolen anything from any person, I'll repay back 4 times the amount. The other one the book uses is the Good Samaritan. One walked down the other side, one walked to the other side. The Good Samaritan picked the man up, put him in the inn, and say, whatever this young man needs when I get back, I will repay it. So we use those two biblical principles. You might not have caused our injury, but you see us as a Christian church injured on the side of the road. Most people don't realize that the Christian church in America for 100 years owned 660,000 slaves. I'm going to say that again. The white Christian church owned 660,000 slaves. And in this book, it gives a narrative of the historical wrongs done to us throughout this time here on this continent. And every time we would get up and build ourselves with our own bootstrap, white supremacy will come and tear our cities down, burn them down, build highways and freeways through eminent domain. So our government has conspired against us. Banks have conspired against Black people where they would redline Black communities and not allow Black folks to get loans. The GI Bill was one of the largest wealth giveaways in the history of the United States of America, where they gave GIs an opportunity to go to college for free, to buy a home for free, but they denied that to a lot of Black people who could not come back in their own community with a GI Bill and buy the houses in which their parents had been renting for years. So reparations is deserved. We deserve reparations. Not only do we deserve it because they've done us wrong, but they've given reparations to the Jewish community. They've given reparations to the Asian community. They've given some reparations, not a whole lot, to the Indian community. So when you talk about the facts that we deserve reparations, yes, the answer is yes, yes, yes. And the church, the white Christian church, owes Black Christians reparations. There's Citadel, Harvard, Brown University, all was built on the back of slavery. I'm gonna take a little whisk. I see your face smiling.
Yeah, because yes, because
you better narrate. Go ahead.
Because you're getting into so many of the things that we're actually going to talk about. I'm going to ask you about a little later. And so I appreciate the context, but I also don't want us to get too far ahead of ourselves and then end up being redundant. And so I want to just take a moment to be very clear that, and if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but I want to make succinct all that you're sharing right now. And that is to just be clear that reparations is not just a matter of monetary payouts for racism alone. It's about a moral and physical injury that encompasses several generations of human rights violations, crimes against humanity, and genocidal practices that did not begin nor end on the plantation. And that's very important context, and that those same crimes persist today. So Black people across the globe have been robbed of the opportunity for economic advancement and a healthy trajectory for themselves and future generations. So reparations are monetary for sure, right? We cut the check that we have earned because our labor has been exploited and our wages have been stolen. But it's also an acknowledgement of the injustices that we have suffered through, an apology for those atrocities. And it's both a monetary and non-monetary restitution, as well as a commitment to non-repetition, a repentance. And so I think that makes succinct all that you were sharing. Do you have anything to add? You want to make any corrections?
No, I think you're hitting you can't repair a community without capital, money. The
Mhm.
only difference between our neighborhoods and white neighborhoods is they have access to capital. And that
Mhm.
capital for development comes from retirement funds, pension funds, come from Wall Street and so forth. And if you want to level the playing field, we need capital in order to build our own schools, to teach our own children. And one of the things that we're going to do with our reparations later on,
Because we're gonna
I'll,
get
I'll,
there.
I'll stay
I
right
want
there.
to.
Go
All
ahead. Go
right,
ahead.
we're gonna put a pin in it. Put a
All
pin
right,
in it.
I'll hold it right there.
All right.
Let's look at the House bill. We have a House bill that's been in Congress forever. Cities and states across the United States now are recognizing reparations. In Peoria, Illinois, they're giving $25,000 back to those who can prove of African descent. I think we're in a wonderful place. For the first time in human history, you have 5 generations of people living at the same time: 20, 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, and 80 to 100. Now, that 80 to 60 is where the clog in the wheel is at. But that 60 on down, they have Black friends that they love, that they're in a relationship with. They don't see us as an enemy. And they are opening the floodgates of opportunities for us to be able to recoup what was taken for us. So we must stay in the campaign. We must dialogue. We're not asking for a handout. We're just asking for you to give us a return on our investment.
Right. Right. Definitely agree. So you serve as pastor in the AME Church,
Yes.
which has historically played an integral part in the fight for reparations and an overall independence for Africans in America. So can you just tell us a little bit about the history of Bethel AME in Pittsburgh, and more specifically, the land ownership that became central to you all's local fight for reparations? And I'm just going to ask that you, just for time's sake, just answer the question directly.
Okay. So Bethel started in 1808 with a group of men. And by 1832, they opened up the first school to teach Blacks to read when public education would not allow Black people to go to public schools. Bethel was part of the Underground Railroad, and over this period of time, they bought 16 properties. As a result of that, we're doing our historical research to find out, when did they actually buy these properties? Was it during the Great Migration? We knew we were part of the Underground Railroad. Payne Theological Seminary, where I got both of my graduate degrees from, a resolution at our general conference, the 8th General Conference, was held at Bethel in Pittsburgh, where resolution came to start a school of higher learning for the clergy. Bethel had always been that bootstrapping kind of congregation. The ancestral thirst for them to find a way of freedom for our people never dwindled. And as a result of that, there was a great fire in Pittsburgh, and we lost our downtown church on Cherry Street, and we purchased the historical land that we got restitution for a few months ago. So this wonderful citadel of hope that they built, and they walked in 1908. The sanctuary seated 1900. It was not a synagogue that they inherited. It was a building built for them, and it was a place of restitution, a place of honor, a place of dignity. They had Negro League baseball teams. They had the Alphas. They had the sororities. They had the Masons. They had any and everything that you would need to build a community. They would help the Southerners when they came up, and they didn't have a place to stay. Bethel housed them. The expectation that all of our people would pull themselves up by their own boot and bootstrap. It's set at the lower hill and all up going up Center Avenue. All the entertainment took place. Pickett was on as a hub of jazz, for music, for entertainment, because we patronize our own business. So we had our own ecosystem that was destroyed by eminent domain in 1954, where they took 98 acres of land and destroyed that land. What I said, they built a playground for white people to play. They built a civic arena right on top of our church. Right across almost 500 feet from our church sat was Epiphany, a Catholic church that is still there today. And because we didn't have legal representation that would file a discrimination case, we lost our church. The U.S. by in domain had done a replacement cost value of Bethel at $740,000. Bethel only received $230,000. And as a result, They were moved outside of downtown. The pastor and the steward went down and said, would you not take our church? Would you not take our Citadel of Hope? But they did it anyway. And they said, well, could you help us find some downtown property? And they said, well, if you pay us, we will. So they were moved almost 1.5 miles from downtown. With the $230,000, they could only build a sanctuary that seats 900. So they lost 2/3 of their congregation, lost 2/3 of income. And Bethel, that's been there 60 years now, they have been in survival mode ever since, because they had to take out a mortgage to finish building the building, then had to take out another mortgage to put in the air conditioning. As a result, they did not have the time to sit around and go over all of the historical documents and all of the champions and all of the things that Bethel had won at Big Bethel downtown. And our history was kind of erased out of the great city of Pittsburgh. But thank God to the membership, thank God to the diligent workers on our team, we began to unearth the rich and wonderful history of Bethel, how they were part of holding the first statewide civic engagement meeting at Bethel AME Church. So Bethel has been that Citadel of Hope. And when you would walk into Pittsburgh, get off the train and see Big Bethel, and you'll see 2,000, 3,000 people getting out of service, it gave you hope that if we can build this great Ephesus, we can build this great sanctuary, this Citadel of Hope to our God, there was nothing that was impossible for us. So we organized in the basement, voter registration, voter education. We were an active part of the community. We had a nurses guild that was second to none, that we would gather nurses from all over the city, and we would care for those who were sick and shut in, who could not afford to go to the hospital. So Bethel was that activating force. Along with Big Bethel, Mother Bethel down in Pittsburgh, they all supported ending slavery, getting the right for the Black man to vote, the woman to vote. So they worked with the abolitionist movement. Wonderful, marvelous history that was taken away from them. A vibrant church, a vibrant congregation were targeted by white supremacy and left and put into a place in a neighborhood that was already over-infatuated or over-concentrated with Black churches, which was a remedy for destruction for Bethel.
All right, all right. That history sounds like the history of
Yes.
the AME Church. And so thank you for sharing the contributions of men and women and
Oh, without a
siblings
question.
who
Yes.
built the church, that we celebrate today. So for those who are unfamiliar, I want you to share a little bit, because that history gives context to the conversation that we're having tonight. So if you could just share with us the agreement that Bethel AME Church and the Penguins have come to now. I know you said that there were about 9 acres of land that were owned by Bethel, if I got that correct.
No.
But you can correct me if not. But share with us the timeline of this journey, who owns what, the cost benefits to Bethel, and the impact of this agreement on the community. What was lost and what's now been returned.
So we started this journey 2 years ago in May. Our bishop got a letter from one of the community groups in the neighborhood who said that Bethel is owed reparations. And, all things go back to the local trustees and the pastor. So it came to us and we met with the person and we asked him, what do you think Bethel should get in reparations? At that point, I did not know Bethel's extensive history. I had a little knowledge. And we were going right through COVID. So she said, well, we'll put a plaque in the building that they're going to build upon your historic land. And I don't have a poker face. I looked at her like, you got to be kidding me. And I asked her at that point, please do not speak for Bethel anymore. Let us do our history. And we began to speak for ourselves. So we organized and I have some community activists in my church, staunch members, Doris Carson Williams, Greg Spencer, Tim Stevens, brother and sister Sue, who have been stalwarts in the community, but all of them were part of the new Bethel. They didn't know the history of old Bethel. So we organized and we began to have meetings with the mayor, with county council. We began to have meetings with community activists, and we began to organize. That's what I do. I'm an organizer. So I organized the Pennsylvania Council of Churches, all the ecumenical groups. I asked them to go into their archives and see if you can find any op-eds or anything asking the community not to take Bethel or not to destroy this vibrant Black community. They could not find anything. So we used the book Reparations to build our allies. And as we build our allies, then I was able to get people to go in rooms to speak on behalf of Bethel that I couldn't go in. So I found a way to organize with these 9 white churches, and we began the struggle. And so the Penguins, we were going to protest at a Penguins game. And I guess they got news of it in the community and they wanted a meeting. So they met us at the church. And the Penguins said, well, we believe in reparations. We have read your story, and you deserve your land and your development rights back. So at that point, I was excited. I was flabbergasted, but excited. We were meeting every Thursday. We met every Thursday for almost a year and a half, organizing our campaign. We had a mayoral election, and the former mayor was unelected. And we elected our first Black mayor in the history of Pittsburgh, the Honorable Mayor Gainey, and his staff. And so we have already had an agreement with the Penguins. We had an agreement with the URA to give us land around our existing church, which there's about 1,000 vacant lots that are owned by the city and the URA. So we were excited going into the new year in 2021, but the new mayor had a different plan. But his chief of staff said, well, can I meet with you, Pastor Snyder, and your group? And I said, yeah, let's. He said, well, what the last administration had promised to you, we're not in line with that because some of the property we didn't own. And so I said to him at that point, listen, I'm not worried about the land around our existing church. What I want is our historic land back. And he said, well, you got the Penguins on your side. That should be an easy lift. I said, well, we'll see how easy it is. And at that point, the new mayor and his chief of staff convened a meeting with us, the Penguins, the URA, which is the Urban Redevelopment Authority, and the Sports Authority, which manages all of the sports venues in the city of Pittsburgh, have this Me Too agreement down on the land. So when they built the Penguins' new stadium, they came in existence in 1967. They said they were going to lead the city, so the city and the state gave them this golden parachute. They built them a new stadium. The casino had to chip in. And they also gave them development rights over this 28 acres in the Lower Hill in which Bethel original property stood. So we started this campaign. We built a wide net of competent, capable people who heard our story, and we began to put together what is called table talks, where we explain to people what the Christian church has done to Black people. And as a result, the congregations, they repented. They reformed and they joined our campaign. And so as we began to meet month after month, we finally got to the point where our existing land was only 13,000 square feet. And it was right in the heart of this $2 billion development. And so the Penguins, we were at the table negotiating. I tell folks, stay at the table. Don't leave the table, always negotiate. What came out of the negotiation was that we received 63,000 square feet versus the 13,000 square feet that encompassed our land. Where our historic land is at, we will get a kiosk because they have all of these billion-dollar plans down there that will explain the history of Bethel. It also will generate revenue for Bethel. And part of our negotiation, we wanted a development that will generate revenue for Bethel into perpetuity. And in order to do that, we needed a larger piece of land than the 13,000 square foot that was the original church sat on. So we went back and forth thinking about how we can do ministry. What is the need? Do we need to build a brand new church downtown, or do we need to renovate the current church where we're at? So we came to this agreement that the Penguins, they give us development rights over 1.5 acres of land and this 28 acres of land on the Lower Hill. It's about maybe 1,000 feet from where our original property was at, but now we have 5 times the amount of property to do development on. So in this agreement on this 28 acres of land, the Penguins have the development rights, the SCA and the URA own part of the land. Once we present to them a development and we're at closing, at that point, we will get the rights back to our land. So we're in the planning stages. We've hired a developer. We have hired a architect, Moody Nolan, out of Columbus, Ohio, one of the largest African-American architectural firms in the country. And we're at the point now we're trying to put together the best model that will generate revenue for Bethel into perpetuity.
Awesome. Thank you. So there's one thing that you said, and this really sounds like was a sort of launching pad for how you all got to where you were. And it is the dialogue between Bethel and some of those other churches, and particularly the table talk concept, the concept of dialogue as a launching pad. And that was a concept that was launched by your wife, right? Sister Carmelita.
Yeah, that was by Carmelita and my daughter Amber, and Sue and Pastor Carmichael. We had all got together. We came together with the Lutherans as a result. You remember Emmanuel 9. The Lutherans had made a national decree that the Lutheran churches would build a relationship with the AME Church. And as a result, Bishop Kershaw reached out to us, and we were walking around the park and trying, like, little kids learning how to walk, trying to figure out how we're going to build these relationships. And I think it was about a week or 2 weeks after we had our first meeting, I have all these white pastors. I said, well, listen, I don't know where this is going to take us, but we're ready to fight to get our land back. And they said, all right, well, Pastor, we're with you. Let's, what we have to do. I said, well, we got to. So we put together a committee. We started meeting every Thursday. And I, at the age I am pleasantly surprised and appreciative for some of my white colleagues, my brothers and sisters, who have come to Bethel's aid, who have spoke their mind, who have stood up for us, who have cried with us, labored with us, and been in back rooms and negotiated on behalf of Bethel in our fight. A lot of the churches went back, as I said, looked in all of the historical records, could not find anything about what happened to Bethel in that community. So the table talk is a powerful way to build your allegiance. If you're going to take on a campaign like this, you need a good bishop, like my bishop, Bishop Ernest McLeod. Is a wonderful mentor, a wonderful guide. I brought him in several times to speak and to build the relationship. He encouraged me during good times. He encouraged me during dark times. And it's good to have support with your elders and the community around you. The wider the SWAT you build, many hands make the work light. But when you get in these table talks, be authentic, be who you are. Just tell the truth. I told white folks I have post-traumatic white people syndrome. And they look, I start laughing. They say, well, what is that? I said, it's been many times I've organized, we protested, we doing this. And I go in the room, I look around, y'all done ran the other way. And so I asked God, I said, God, now is this something you really, really want me to push? Because I don't feel like putting myself out here like this. And then these white people do the same thing. But praise be to God. I found some white colleagues, younger white Christians, some older white Christians who have come to Bethel's aid and has been with us every step of the way, helping us organize and building an army to talk about the reparations that the church, the white Christian church, owns to the Black church, as well as how we do civic engagement. And so we're just beginning with this momentum. And I encourage everyone, if you need to do your homework, your history, you have to work 60, 80, 90 hours a week. This work is not for the faint of heart. You have to organize, delegate, keep minutes, review the minutes. You're going to make some hiccups along the way. But we pray at every one of our meetings, and we read scripture at every one of our meetings. We introduce ourselves to new people who come. We close with prayer. And do a prayer. I'm about what God is doing, and I want others to be encouraged. Again, I ask you to buy this book. It's a good roadmap. It will teach. It's a hard read. When I read this, Jasmine, I was angry. I had to pray a whole lot, put the book down and highlight it and pick it back up. I've seen the courage of our people. Christian did to our folks. I'm going to read this to you.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to let you share more about that book. I'm gonna let you share more about that book when we talk about some of the resources that we can share with the community who's watching us so that they can get involved in this journey. Until that time, we're gonna cut to a quick break just to receive word from Reverend Washington, candidate for CIO.
Okay. Great. Right.
I am the Reverend Jared Britton Washington, and I am seeking your prayerful support for the office of Chief Information Officer of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. We are grateful that in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, this Chief Information Officer, known as the General Secretary, has a duty to be a bridge builder, to bring together the technologically sophisticated with the technologically challenged, and to navigate how God allows us to affect change, to keep records, and to make certain that the AME Church is accountable on all levels. And so, my brothers and my sisters, I am grateful for the opportunity to present myself to the AME Church. I know that when God gifted me, God made me to be a man of God who loves God's people, who understands promptness, who understands accountability, who understands the ability to be objective in all scenarios and situations, and who loves the spirit of enthusiasm. I am grateful that God has blessed me to be presented before great men and women of God, and I am grateful for the various gifts that God has given me over the course of the years that I have lived this life. Continue to pray for me, pray with me, and know that God is going to bless us in this journey, because I don't just believe that the best is yet to come. I believe the best is right here now, and greater is on the way.
All right, welcome back, family. We left off kind of talking about allyship and relationship building in the organizing process, and really what it means for many people and many organizations to get involved in the struggle. I would have asked next what organizations you did partner with in the fight for the church's land back, but since you've already answered that question in your remarks, I do want to just add a little bit of context and remind folk that reparations is not just about the government giving payouts, but there are many people who are descendants of the atrocities that we have endured, and they have benefited from the atrocities that we have endured. And so it's the work of all people to ensure that there is reparations for the harms that have been caused and for the ways that those harms are continuing to be perpetual for us. And so communities are not only requested in allyship and partnership, but it's their own divine mandate. It is their responsibility to take up this mantle as well and to lock arms in solidarity with those of us who are owed. So thank you for all that you have shared in that regard, and the organizations and the people who have participated in this struggle, because it is indeed a communal struggle and a collective struggle. So now that we have gotten to that point, I want to move to another piece of this reparations conversation. And I suppose that maybe it's been mentioned some throughout our dialogue, but can you just talk a little bit about the precedence for the demand for reparations? Have reparations been shared historically in ways that you feel might also be useful for our community as well?
I think the beachfront property in California, where they receive their property, and then we are the first to receive development rights back from a National League sports team. And that's a first. We're getting the appraised value of the land, so I don't want to give out an inaccurate amount. But I just wanted to read this because this is what galvanized a lot of the white congregations, because there's two
I
people.
want you to share what you're going to read at the time of resource sharing, so that people know what book to refer to. So that's going to be a little bit later in the dialogue, if you don't mind.
Okay, ask me the question again.
All right. I just want you to share with us a little bit about the precedence for the demand for reparations and how reparations have been shared historically in ways that you feel might be useful for our community as well. And so you touched on it a little bit when you talked about what took place in California, and that's a more recent history. And so it's a great example of precedence. And then there are also others like the natives and even former slave owners and plantation owners who also received reparations post-slavery. So can you just talk a little bit about the precedents?
Yeah, one of the things when they freed us from slave, they gave us, many of us heard about the acres and the mules. But right after that, they came and took that land back. And they paid the slave owners $25 for each slave that was freed during the Emancipation Proclamation. We have been fighting for reparations ever since. We have never stopped asking to be treated with equality. And so that this struggle is a long history. And in California, they have done a statewide study on reparations. They concluded that a few months ago. Now they're going to go back and find a remedy for reparations, because when they done the studies, they found at every juncture, healthcare, education, development, home ownership, insurance, and every single instance where we had to spend money, we paid a higher premium than white people. And so, the funny thing about so sad is that the insurance company had policies on the slaves, but the beneficiary was the slave owner. So when you talk about reparations and the momentum going forward, I think because of the younger generation, such as yourself and those a little older and down, they don't see us as others. Humanity now is starting to get out of this, the black man is this, the white man is that. We still have those who are trying to turn back the clock by not calling it critical race theory. They don't want to teach Black history because they don't want their grandson looking at the photos and realizing that, you look like my daddy. Daddy, is that you in that picture throwing rocks at the little kids trying to go to school, little Black kids? So, I mean, the point that we still have that 80 to 100 generation who are trying to hold back and stop the hands of time going forward. I hope that young people such as yourself will galvanize, will not allow the noise to water down what you deserve. If the Japanese can get reparations for internment camps, certainly we are deserving of reparations. And how we determine what we get is on an individual basis. Some people have their properties taken, burned down. Some folks was run out of town. That's how we got in the North, because they said my father looked at a white woman in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And they said, you better get Ben out of town. And he had to go through the Underground Railroad in the 30s to get to Youngstown, Ohio. So reparations, the pain of reparations, the anger and the frustration that we have fought in every war in this country. We have given our lives, our blood. We have endured hardship, hanging and lynching and murder. And then the government and other folks said they got the, unmitigated gall to tell us that we got to keep starting from zero. When in this country, they gave crops to the immigrants. Not only did they give them crops, but they gave them a farm bill to teach them how to mechanize the crops. And not only did they give them farm bills to teach them how to mechanize the crops, they even paid them not to even crop. And these are the same folks, as Martin Luther King said in one of his speeches, who telling us to pull ourselves up by our own very bootstrap. So we're having wins, and we must continue this momentum, and we must not be ashamed. We're not asking for a handout. We're asking for a fair return on our investment in this country. And I encourage everyone who, build your delegation, tell your story, be genuine, do your homework. And I guarantee you can find God is on your side. I'm a cone here. God is on the side of the oppressor. And you just have to get your story to those who have the power. And this is what I asked all my allies. There are rooms I can't get in. There are places I can't go because of the color of my skin. I need you to become an advocate for me. If you're going to be a genuine Christian, a genuine ally, I need you to get into those rooms and open doors that I will never be able to walk in. And thank God that we were able to build those relationships through our faith in Jesus Christ, through our Christian belief that we are the restorers of the breach, through the word of God, that we are the good Samaritan, through the word of God. If I stole from you, I deserve to repay you back 4 times the amount that I've taken from you as a Christian. We ain't supposed to just say, oh man, well, too bad. I had nothing to do with that. No, you have privilege, you have favor, and you don't have to start from zero like majority of our people always have to start from zero.
Thank you for sharing. So we have just a couple more things to tackle. One will be the resources, but
Sure.
I'm going to take this moment to cut to our next commercial because I know that this next question is going to take us some time to work through. And so I'm going to take this moment to take a brief pause to receive words from Reverend Cooper, candidate for bishop.
All right.
And so part of what I am inviting people to do as we go in this campaign, I invite them to become a part of the Cooper experience because you want to know that the person that would be a bishop has sufficient experience and understanding and knowledge of the denomination and its workings and its ways, that they can serve well, serve the people well, serve the denomination well, as a bishop in the church. And so I'm asking people to become a part of the Cooper experience because I believe it is the kind of experience you can trust. You can trust me to do well, be well, and administer well as one of the bishops of the church. And so I ask you to become a part of the Cooper experience because it is an experience you can trust.
All right. Welcome back, family.
Yes.
We're going to jump right into these final thoughts and these final questions. A lot of people would like to know how we set our communities up for success after reparations. What does that success look like to you, Dale, particularly as it relates to monetary reparations and social safety nets?
Well, one of the things that we intended to do with our development, we're going to do a capital campaign. And I want to fund a think tank, a space where we can get some of the best and brightest minds, some scientists, some doctors, some naturalists, those who deal with herbs, put them in a room and say, how do we solve Black problems? Put some that deals with DNA. Some studies now showing that trauma goes from one generation to the next generation. I don't think there's been any other people in this country, maybe with the Indians, who have been more traumatized than us. And so I want to create these spaces to find solutions for Black problems. I think we have to become our own trumpeteers, and we have to define what success is or isn't. And we must utilize the strength of combined economic power. I think the next level for freedom for our people is for us to own and control businesses, to be able to share with Mother Africa, to be able to share with our women and our children and our sons and our daughters, to let them know that you're not the hewers of wood and the drawers of water, but you're wonderfully, marvelously made in the image of God, and the cattle of 1,000 hills is the Lord. And all we need to do is have vision. And if we have vision and we speak the vision, God will give you provision to bring about the radical changes that need to happen in your sphere of influence. We have to get rid of the Willie Lynch syndrome. We have to stop dissing each other. We have to learn how to get along and be peacekeepers and peacemakers. For our young people, not to have to start over again, like so many of our families who don't inherit a home, don't inherit a capital, don't have a birthright that our parents can leave to them. We have to think more as a nation of people and stop thinking as individuals. When we understand that all children are our children, we can begin to solve a lot of problems. We can understand that all seniors are those who should be respected and honored and nurtured. We can think about all of our daughters and all of our sons and all of our family members need love and protection. I began to solve our own problem. That's what success looks like to me, that we take time to educate children. Things we wanted to open up a state-of-the-art daycare where we're focusing on robotics and focusing on teaching kids how to code. These young children are so bright, so have so much energy. They need to be in a space where they are confirmed, they are loved, they are respected. I grew up in a time where the old folks used to lay hands on you, prophesy over your life. They told me I was going to be a preacher as a boy. I was running, so you got to be crazy. My daddy's a preacher, ain't nowhere in the world, but destiny is in all of us. So success for us with reparations is for us to put together think tanks and for us as a people to decide what is the most critical need in the Black community. If you were asking me what the most critical need right now is, primary education. My daughter, her first job was in Taiwan, and she almost drove her daddy crazy. Graduated from Case Western Reserve, and her best friend was Taiwanese. Make a long story short, she went over there and she was teaching 1, 2, and 3, and 4-year-old children English. And I asked her, I said, Sharia, how did they do? She said, Daddy, they were like sponges. Everything I gave to them, they threw it right back. So we need to start early so our children can have a first opportunity. So when they come to kindergarten, they're already reading. They're already doing their numbers. They're already doing addition and some subtraction. To me, that is the most critical need, because if you look at all of the proof by 3rd grade, you know how many prisons to build based upon our children that would be in remedial training for the rest of their lives. So that's what success looks like to me. We get in the room and we fund some people, give them salaries, hospitalization, so they don't have to worry about how they're going to take care of their family. And we get the best and the brightest, and we put some test models together that we can take it from city to city, neighborhood to neighborhood, and bring about the liberation of our people.
Awesome. Thank you. So this last piece is just any documents or published work that we can make easily accessible to those who are unfamiliar with the struggle for liberation. And I'm sorry, well, liberation, yes, but the struggle for reparations, any particular policies that you're standing behind and would like the people to join in pushing for. Just a quick word on how people can get involved.
Okay, there are plenty of books that you can get on reparations. I think this is one of the best books. It was written by a Caucasian and an Asian, written really to white people who are the ones responsible for repairing what they have taken away. I highly recommend this book because it's written from a Christian perspective. And there are other resources that you can get online. And if you just type in reparations, you'll find a whole lot of current books, periodicals. I encourage you to pray and ask God which direction you should go in after you're seeking these resources. And whatever you need for your individual fight, I believe God will give you the strength. Just be faithful. Just be faithful to the cause. You might make a few errors along the way. That's okay. Don't get disencouraged because you have a few errors along the way. Just remain faithful to the cause. There are national reparations groups. There are many of them, so many I can't name them all, but a lot of them have been fighting for a very long time. And people have, one of the largest spending agencies in the world is United States government. And if we will get just what we pay into the federal government, we will have enough jobs. We can build our communities. We're not begging for anybody to give us reparation. We're just asking you to return the dollars that we have invested in this country, to return the blood and the pain and the suffrage of our people in this country. We have built this country on our back with free labor. And I'm tired of politicians coming to me, talking about get my vote. Would you vote for me? Would you do voter registration? No, I want you to do some reparation bill writing. That's what I need you to do. And all of us need to be speaking out of the same tone. And this is not handout. This is not welfare. This is investment in our own community. As I started out in the beginning, if we can get just the retirement dollars that we have, if we can have that as venture capital to go in and invest in our communities and build houses, and build roadways and build malls and build the kind of things and infrastructure that we need so our sons and daughters can be independent thinkers, be entrepreneurs, and be able to go to the next level. We have an opportunity now with artificial intelligence and with the internet to go into a plethora of businesses where you don't have to be looking for somebody else to employ you. You can employ yourself. So I encourage all of you to be thinking about entrepreneurial, creative ways to put your sons and your daughters and your children to work, because America is changing. The whole world is changing right before our eyes. And if we're not part of the change, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. So I encourage you, find a way to do your research. What is your market niche? What do you feel is needed in your community? And I encourage you, I think it starts with the little babies. I have grandchildren, and I speak over their lives every time I see them. I lift them up. I encourage them. I motivate them. I make them put their cell phones down. We're going to have a talk, eye-to-eye, face-to-face conversation. So if you need anything, you can go to bethelpittsburgh.org, and you can leave me a comment. I'll get back to you, me or my staff. If you want to donate to our cause, you can donate there. We have a Tithely account there, Cash App account. We're about to put together between $170 million, $200 million development, where we're going to build anywhere from 300 to 400 apartments, where we're going to create our own ecosystem. We're going to have state-of-the-art daycare. We're going to take young women in. It's going to be a 20-80 mix. 20% of those are going to be low to moderate income families. We're going to target young ladies who may have, for whatever reason, we're going to take them from where they're at to where they need to go. We're going to take their children and change their trajectory in life. We're going to tell them, you are a king, you are a princess. Slave. We were never slaves. We were captive. Nobody go into we were held hostage against our own will. And they gave us this catechism and the church taught Hammonite curse, that we were a human type. And when you began to explain to white people the severity of slavery, none of them really know the history of slavery. A lot of Black people don't know the history of slavery, the pain of it, the conversation of it. You ever want to get a whole bunch of Black folks arguing, bring them in your house, start talking about slavery. And people the pain, the trauma of it is so intense. And we need some solutions for our young mothers and young fathers and our young families who are struggling with their children, to give them some solutions. So we want to galvanize capital so we can put people in a room and create a think tank so we can come up with solutions for Black problems.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing with us. All right, family. You all have heard it from the Reverend Doctor. So make sure to find your place in the fight. Also, continue to follow the Christian Recorder for more TCR Dialogue moments throughout the summer. And of course, you will see us and can look for us at the next General Board meeting in June. Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Snyder, for sharing with us. And thank you all for joining us. Until next time, peace, peace, peace to you, family. We'll see you soon.
God bless you. Thank you.